Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to the show. I'm Rebecca McLaughlin-Easton and this week we're attending the 11th edition of Abu Dhabi Art. A little bit later on we'll sit down with the acclaimed French-Tunisian artist El Cid, who uses calligraphy as a form of political and creative expression.
I think for me art is a pretext, like you use art to go to places that usually you won't be able to go.
We'll also head to Lebanon to find out how graffiti artists and musicians are expressing their views in the wake of recent political unrest. But first, let's take a tour of the colourful corridors of Abu Dhabi Art. There were walls of decorative donuts, life-size triceratops, and blooms made of buttons, all at the three-day run of Abu Dhabi Art. And for those who couldn't make it in person, an initiative called After Dark allowed art lovers to take remote control of a camera-equipped robot and guide it through the halls. As for commissioned art, established conceptualist Leandro Elric from Buenos Aires was in town to discuss his creation called The Heart of Water, which was on display in Abu Dhabi's Alain Oasis. The installation, in which 12 panes of printed glass form clouds, is the next chapter of similar works which have been displayed in countries from Europe to the Far East. Leandro is equally popular for his gravity-defying bâtiment artwork and his optical illusion piece, Swimming Pool. Inspire began by asking the 46-year-old about his latest creation.
I have built a sort of nest that is holding inside a cloud. And I titled that piece The Heart of Water. I found I wanted to create something poetic in relation to the desert. I like the idea of questioning the world we live. I like the idea of pushing for a critical sense, to create awareness, and eventually to not take things for granted.
What do you make of the art scene here in the UAE?
Well, I think it's incredibly active, it's growing. There's a lot of new cultural centers opening, new museums. And as someone that believes that art and culture are part of the infrastructure and the structure of education, I think this is a very, very positive action.
Another major attraction this year at Abu Dhabi Art was the respected French-Tunisian artist El Cid. On display was his project called The Journey, a collaboration with the social enterprise group 81 Designers, in which the artist, alongside refugee women and children from Ain El Helway camp in Lebanon, painted murals with messages of hope and peace. Murals were also transformed into hand-stitched artwork, preserving the Palestinian embroidery technique of tatreez. It's the latest in a long line of global projects for the UAE-based 38-year-old, whose trademark is to use Arabic calligraphy to spread messages of humanity, unity and coexistence. His work has famously been displayed in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro and on the outside of l'Institut du Monde Arabe in Paris. And another landmark project was called Perception, where his murals adorned almost 50 buildings in Cairo's segregated Coptic community of Zaraib, known as the city's garbage collectors neighborhood. The art and the artist made such an impression that the underprivileged community took El Cid into their homes and into their hearts. To hear his stories, Inspire sat down with the man himself. El Cid, a very warm welcome to Inspire Middle East.
Thank you.
You've always believed that art can spark political change and also spark a conversation. So what's the message that you hope people take away from your latest project?
I think for me art is a pretext, like you use art to go to places that usually you won't be able to go. And for me it's important to do this kind of project to show that today in 2019 we still have people living in refugee camp and living in such a difficult condition. I mean, this camp was opened in 1948. And when you see like 100,000 people living like two square kilometers, you just feel that you need to raise awareness and show that, yeah, this is still happening. Even if the media don't speak about it, you still have people living in this kind of condition today.
You came to identify strongly with your Arabic roots aged 18, and your art is born out of something of an identity crisis. Yeah. Explain to me the journey.
I think I felt disconnected. I felt I needed to choose between being French and being Tunisian. As I was born in Paris and raised by Tunisian parents. And then I think I was wrong, to make this choice So I run into my Arabic identity thinking that because I look physically more Arab than French, and then slowly like digging more into Arabic culture and learning and then discovering calligraphy and then bringing it to my graffiti back in the days, I realized that I would never be able to do what I do today if I wasn't French, as well.
Why is it so important to you to use calligraphy rather than motifs, block colors, other art forms?
I think, there is more depth and it's not straight in your face. You invite people maybe to try to understand. So I always see like 3 layers in my work. For example, there is the aesthetic part, so people might like or not. Then the second is the message. So every time I paint something, I write a message in Arabic related to the place where I'm painting. So for example, in Brazil, I painted a Portuguese poem. Arabic calligraphy for me has this power to reach the soul before it reaches the eyes. And even if you don't speak Arabic or don't understand, if you don't have any link with the Arab world, you will still find a connection and feel an emotion.
Human kindness is often a consequence of your work, as are endless cups of tea. Tell me about your experiences in that regard.
We had this super cool experience in Egypt. So every time I was painting on those walls, every time I was going on my lift, going up, like people were opening their window and offer me a cup of tea. So the first one, I drink it. The second one, you get surprised, but you just had one before that. And then you keep going, and every time people were always welcoming you with this. And we also had that once in Algeria. I was painting. I was on the 7th floor of a building, and there's a small window that opened. And then the woman, she's like, "My son, did you have lunch?" I say, "No, I will eat later." And then she just gave me a big plate of couscous.
It's rude to say no, of course, right?
Yeah, you cannot say no. So so we spent so much time drinking tea, But that was a way, I think, for the community to show me and to show my team that, they accepted us. And we stay in touch with them.
But with your artwork, and not least that project in Cairo, there is an impermanence to it.
Yeah.
Buildings are already going up in front of some of the murals, and some of your artwork is erased, deleted, destroyed.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the temporary nature of that?
I think the essence of my art is ephemeral, so I create it for the moment, and today we have the technology to capture, so I document all my project, and it's part of it. Me, I'm not here to stop life, life goes on. So I paint, and then that was the moment that to capture, the art piece was here, and then people keep building, the paint can crack, and somebody can tear down the building, and that's part of it. And I love it. For me, that's the poetry of what I do.
Al Saadiyat, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. As protests in Lebanon have gathered momentum in recent months, some of the country's artistic and creative types have been inspired to pick up their paintbrushes and their spray cans, as Lena Molana-Allen reports.
Early morning in Beirut, and these graffiti artists are hard at work. They're creating a mural on the outer wall of Beirut's National Electricity Company headquarters. They were inspired by a song which asserts that the Lebanese people will not be ruled by the country's wealthy elites.
In a community that has been restricted culturally and financially, it's slavery in a way. As they say, we're born free, everyone is born free, and it has to stay the case, So we're fighting for it.
For Exist and his fellow artists, their contribution to political progress is through art. Like many walls across Beirut, this one will soon be covered in a story.
We as graffiti artists, you throw something on a wall, it's not yours anymore, it's just out there. We wrote our history that way, we wrote on walls our evolution. That's where culture comes out of, your struggles.
Since the 17th of October, Lebanese people have been taking to the streets, protesting for the removal of a government they say is corrupt and does not represent them. As the sun sets over Beirut, more young Lebanese are expressing themselves on the streets, this time through dance.
It will bring people together, and that's the main idea of this revolution, and people gathering around in the streets all together despite their differences, their backgrounds, their religions. So dancing is a way to bring people together.
Dance teacher Mazen believes the Lebanese people are some of the most talented and creative in the world, partly because of the hardships they've endured.
Most artistic places or more comes from pain and suffering, because when you don't have much to do, there's nothing else but to be creative. Creativity comes on its own. So we try to explode our emotions, in an artistic way, not in an angry way.
Deeper inside Martyrs Square, an area which has stood empty for years, has now become a camp for sleeping protesters. It's a venue awash with artistic expression on every wall, as well as in the air and on the ground, thanks to a group of musically talented friends playing impromptu concerts.
All the protests made me really motivated to share my music with other people and to motivate people to go down and to actually use their public spaces, bring life back to the downtown, which was basically dead before. We have a lot to say, we have a lot to do, and if there's more faith in us, we will take this country places higher than ever imagined.
As night falls, protesters gather together in the central square to sing, dance, and celebrate their unity. It's a scene replicated across Lebanon, where creative types have been finding new ways to protest together. Like in the northern city of Tripoli, where DJ Madi Karimeh has been leading nightly dance parties. Like drummer Dana, he believes that by the people coming together despite their differences and sharing their talents, Lebanon's youth can build a new country that represents them all.
Well, it's time for Inspire to call it a day. We hope you enjoyed the show, and don't forget to follow us on social media. Speaking of which, here are some of your artistic, inspiring Instagram posts that we liked this week.
Shimon from Lebanon made this illustration which reads, "Lebanon, rise up," believing that people can unite in dancing and politics. And Rawan from Syria snapped this El Said mural in Bahrain, musing that the buildings have something to say.